Publicity stunts. There's been all kinds in all shapes and sizes. Good, bad, scandalous, tasteful, untasteful. Some have made careers and some have pretty much killed people's careers. But as a content creator, should you use such a strategy to up your profile and get noticed? That's what we want to talk about here. A publicity stunt is nothing more than a planned action, or commonly used by people and brands just to grab the people's attention. Then it's used in marketing so that you can then direct people towards a certain goal that you want to achieve. This technique is not new. I mean, it is old. It is old. It can go as far back. Actually, it can be dated as far back as 365 BC, when a Greek citizen named Herostratus. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, but Herostratus. So what Herostratus did was that he burnt down one of the most beautiful and recognized temples in Greece. And he only did that because he wanted his name to never be forgotten in history. So he would then go and boast about how that's exactly what he wanted to do. He burnt it down because he wanted people to never forget him. The Greeks actually then tried to suppress his memory by killing him and making his name illegal to speak around the town. But what that did was just make him more famous. So it worked. I mean, it's now 2020 and we're still talking about it. But now, with the age of technology and social media platforms, and there being so many outlets for people to show themselves and tell their stories and do whatever stunt they want to do, it's really becoming more and more frequent. We see more and more of these public stunts coming about because people are becoming more hungrier to trend, more hungrier to become famous, more hungrier to actually be known and be out there. So is it really worth it? Here's the thing. It's just that we know that publicity stunts have been more traditionally scandalous. I mean, the more scandalous the stunt, the more talkable it is, the more viral it becomes. Seldomly do you see publicity stunts working, or publicity stunts that are not particularly so scandalous becoming so memorable or going viral. So, as a content creator, should you consider the strategy just so that you become famous or you trend or you get to create the hype that you want for people to consume your content? Well, here's the thing. I can't tell you no, because there have been some success stories. Britney Spears, Kim Kardashian, Casper and Keenan, if you want to then talk about hip-hop and how they beefed so much and how that controversy actually made people consume their music more. Actually, it's not actually all controversial, because there are some content creators whose content actually thrives on publicity stunts. If you look at Mr. Beast's content, Mr. Beast has one of the biggest YouTube channels of any content creator, and all of his content is borderline publicity stunts. It's all viral, talkable content. Then there's the Red Bull racing team, if you want to look at brands, who go and do crazy things in the real world just so that people can talk about them, their product, and their racing teams. I can tell you that if you want to do it, it's doable. It might not work. But here's the thing. If you're going to use a publicity stunt to grab people's attention and then direct them towards your content, you need to be very, very aware of the type of animal that you're going to be dealing with, and that there's a greater chance that it might flop and go south than it is actually going to work out for you. So you need to keep that in mind and have that very clear. But if you are going to pull a publicity stunt and you want it to work, then there's one very key fundamental element that you need to understand for the success of a publicity stunt, Whether you're a content creator, whether you're a brand, whatever you want to do, there's one key element, and that's the people. You need to understand your people. And if you understand your target market, if you have an understanding with your target audience, you'll know exactly what they'll react to, what kind of publicity stunt will work, how they might react to that publicity stunt, what platform to execute it on, the timing to do it, and how to direct people at the end to the content you actually want them to see. So if you understand the people, it becomes easier, and there's a better chance that whatever stunt that you want to do is actually going to work and potentially not harm you at the end of it. So let's take, for example, the first thing that we talked about, Herostratus. Herostratus wanted his name to forever be known in history. So he went and chose the most beautiful temple, one of the most beautiful temples in Greece. And it wasn't particularly just any beautiful temple. It was a temple whereby he knew that its pillars were made out of wood. He went and he burnt down the temple. Now, this was in a time where people would congregate a lot at temples. So he knew for a fact, but by doing this and then taking responsibility for it, all of Greece was going to talk about it. He picked the right platform. He picked the right people to do it to, because he trusted the Greek people to then want to do something that for sure was going to make sure that his name was always going to be remembered. And just by trying to just suppress his name, by putting a law, that in itself was going to be memorable, because you were always going to question, why the hell is there a name that we can't talk about? He trusted the people to carry that forward for him. So he knew the right people. He knew his people enough to know what they were going to react to, how they were going to react, what platform to burn, when to burn it, and then how to make it carry forward. Actually, let's bring it back a little bit more to current times and to Africa. Let's talk about Casper and AKA. Their beef happened when both of their careers were pretty much at a peak. And it was Rich Kid, who's a rapper, versus the guy who came from the Kasi and is on a come up and is also trying to make it in the game, or is making it in the game. So their rap beef very much managed to make both of their fan bases come together to listen to their music so that they could pick a side. At that time, each and every one who listened to one side's music would listen to the other side's music. Reality is that they knew that hip-hop heads would do exactly what they needed to do when one of them dropped a track. Listen to it. And it didn't matter which one did, because each person needed to know exactly what was going to happen so that they react. In that time when that beef was happening, these guys made serious bag, because whoever dropped a track, whichever side of the camp you were on, you were gonna listen to it. That's two different fan bases that conglomerated into one. They knew exactly what their crowd was going to react to. They knew how they were going to react to it. They knew what platform to do it, and they had the timing, and they knew they could use their own personal platforms, their own YouTube channels, their own Twitter handles to direct people where they needed to go. Actually, let's bring it a whole lot back home to Zimbabwe. AC Lumumba, when he was doing the Lumumba Drive, when he was doing his show, there were a couple of episodes where he would drop fairly controversial content before the show. Take for example when he did the Vimbai Zimuto episode. He dropped fairly controversial image right before it and generated some hype. Then only after that did he then drop the episode. So it managed to direct people to create that hype and direct people towards the episode that he needed them to watch. Also, there was the Madam Boss episode actually. The Madam Boss episode, there was a picture that started circulating of him and Madam Boss sitting in a chicken net. So it looked like a compromising position. There was an issue that started circulating that there might be a relationship or some funny thing that's going on between them, only to realize a couple of days later that he then dropped an episode of him and Madam Boss. That was just it. They managed to pull that publicity stunt to create the hype towards the episode. And it worked fairly well because it created the hype. He managed to pull the people in, create what needed to be done, direct them towards the episode. And it worked. Then, he knew exactly what Zimbabweans were going to react to. He knew how they were going to react to it. They were going to talk about it and treat it as tabloid news. He knew what platform to put it on and which people to direct that content to so that they could amplify it as much as they could. He had the right timing because just before the episodes is when that controversy would happen. If you want to put it in comparison with the recent entanglement situation, I would like to assume that it was close to a PR stunt from August Alsina's angle, because it just so happens that when he brought this up, it was around about the time that he was about to drop his comeback album. I mean, it's just a tad bit too coincidental for me. So I'm going to take it as an example of a publicity stunt. August came out and then talked to a pop show to then talk about his relationship with Jada. Only a couple of days later to then tweet something along the lines of how much he loved her and then his new album is about to drop. Now, this all went south because the whole world ended up then talking about the Jada and Will relationship than there was any buzz at all about his album which dropped. If that was the point, it was a complete miss. We did not get the hype that we needed to actually then go and talk about his album. At the end of the day, it ended up being a patching situation for Jada and Will so that they could fix the perception that was now going on around their relationship. August was no longer a factor as much in this. At the end of the day, instead of us talking about August's album, it ended up being how August was now the side nigga to a relationship that just potentially now seems very toxic more than it is nice and lovey-dovey as we liked it. Digressing stories. But that's just the thing. If you are going to use a publicity stunt to draw in people and direct them towards their content, make sure that you know exactly who your audience is, what your people are, what they react to, how they might react to it, the right platforms to put that message on, time it right, and be able to appropriately direct them towards your content at the end of it. A good example of people who did this is the Red Bull racing team. When they wanted to promote their F1 team, they did a road trip in the F1 car across American states. That created talkability. They simulated a NASCAR pit stop in the middle of New York City so that they could promote the Red Bull racing team, the Red Bull NASCAR racing team. They used that well. They knew their people. They knew America. They knew how much people loved racing and how much they would talk about it in those nice, crowded places. So it's a nice placement. If you are a content creator or a brand and you want to use a publicity stunt, make sure that before you even think about what stunt you want to do, make sure you understand the people that you're communicating to. Otherwise, things will easily go south. So I want you to take this, go out there, and go do some epic shit.